Across the Flow FM network, a Flow News 24 update.
And here at the Flow News desk, we start today with a look at the Roy Morgan Daily News summary, the headlines. And the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, he responds to the Matildas quarter-final win by renewing his call for a public holiday if the team wins the FIFA Women's World Cup. Mr Albanese says the final decision will rest with state and territory leaders at the upcoming National Cabinet meeting. However, he's downplayed the business sector's concerns that a public holiday would cause economic disruption, noting that the national holiday to mark the passing of Queen Elizabeth II boosted sales for many businesses. National Party leader David Littleproud says it is easy to call for a public holiday when someone else is paying for it. It's a concern that governments want to throw a public holiday around for maybe more their own reasoning and their own benefit. I mean, Anthony Albanese's in Brisbane watching the quarter-final, got the best seats in the House. But let's remember that your job is to govern in the economic climate. And right now, while a Matilda's going well at a soccer championship, may actually be a good thing for the personality of the nation, for the, if you like, the psyche of the nation. It might be good for the positive feel of it. At some point, we may lose a match against England in the semis or in the final. And are we going to have a public holiday still if we lose the match? I mean, where is the thinking of this? Is it a public holiday the day after, or is it another day? Are we going to have a public holiday for the World Championship netball winning girls? What about a public holiday when the Olympians come home? Or what about a public holiday after the AFL Grand Final? You know, we can go into all sorts of public holidays, but I think this is a populist position taken by Anthony Albanese. It's one he has no control over. He can't lose any electoral skin on it, except for people who actually call him out for what effectively is a policy that doesn't give the business sector, the small business sector particularly, where you lose a whole day of productivity. People still get paid wages, so workers don't have any loss out of it, but the business sector, those operating the small business, those managers and their wives and family that operate those businesses, they have to continue the work that has to be done, and ultimately it's a public holiday for Anthony Albanese. Maybe he's on too many public holidays himself at the moment, maybe too many trips overseas. Perhaps Anthony Albanese should look at doing some work and getting our economy back on track and getting interest rates back down and doing what he was told to do when he said he was coming into government. He told us that he was going to bring the power prices down. Come on, Mr Albanese, stop giving out cheap type holidays and start governing the nation. Well, TikTok is in the firing line. The Australian Taxation Office has launched an investigation in April 2022 into GST fraud based on a simple scheme that was promoted on social media platform TikTok. The size of the fraud has now blown out to $4.6 billion, while the ATO has admitted it has paid out over $1.6 billion in false GST claims. The fraud was first uncovered by banks, which noticed that customers on social benefits were receiving large business payments from the ATO, with a scam involving people obtaining an ABN, then using the MyGov account to apply for GST refunds on large fictitious expenses they claim to have incurred to set up their new businesses. So an interesting position there that this social media platform TikTok was promoting it, and a GST fraud that the government's looking into. Does the social media platform have to pay a penalty there? And Labor considers a China tech ban. The US President Joe Biden has announced moves to ban US investment in sensitive Chinese technology sectors in order to maintain American national security, and it is urging Australia and other allies to adopt similar measures. Australia has previously limited inbound investment from China on national security grounds, while Benjamin Herskovich, a research fellow at the Australian National University's National Security College, has questioned whether the federal government would match the US ban. He suggests the ban highlights the growing chasm between Washington and Canberra on China policy. One questions why. I mean, if Biden is actually suggesting a ban on sensitive Chinese technology, then, and Biden would have to say is moved further to the left of the position on these things, then surely Australia would be considering it. Another question that should be asked of Anthony Albanese, rather than populist holidays being put up, maybe we need a little bit more work on national security, and rather than having people simply watching soccer matches. Let's have a look at our final one, and Australian wages and jobs data to be released in coming days will provide some guidance as to whether the cash rate has peaked. Wages that are forecast to have risen by about 1% in the June quarter and about 4% year on year. Meanwhile, financial markets expect the official unemployment rate to have risen by 0.1% to 3.6% in July, despite expectations that the economy added 15,000 jobs during the month. Commonwealth Bank economist Harry Otley notes that the nation's rising migrant intake means that strong jobs growth is necessary in order to keep the unemployment rate steady. So they're the Roy Morgan Daily News Summary headlines here on our Flow News Desk.
A Flow News 24 update.